Alright guys, so we're going to apply the exponent rules that we already know, and then we're going to apply them to distributing and combining polynomials. Well, you should know what this word distributing means. It just means that we're multiplying stuff. So we're multiplying. And combining means we're adding or subtracting stuff. Now this word polynomial is probably new for you, and we're going to go over some basic vocab here in just a second. So I want you to write these basic vocabulary words down. So basic vocab. And we have 4 words. Monomial, binomial, trinomial, and polynomial. So, but I'll have that omial at the back, right? So, mono means one. So monomial means just one term. What I mean by term is like just one thing. So like, for example, 2x squared. That's just one little thing together. There's no adding or subtracting. Binomial, means 2, like bicycle has 2 wheels. So binomial means you have 2 terms. So for example, you have 2 terms, so it might be like 2x squared plus 6x. So you have 2 things. So 2 things are going on. That's a binomial. 2 things. And you would guess that trinomial means you have 3 things. Or I'm sorry, not 3 things. 3 terms. Essentially things, sorry. 3 terms. So a trinomial means you have 3 sections. So maybe it's 2x squared plus 6x plus 4. So I have 3 separate things going on there. So it doesn't really matter the letter, it doesn't really matter the exponent, it just matters 1, 2, 3. Okay? Polynomial means many terms. So poly means many. Like a polygon means has a shape with a lot of sides. Many terms. So it could have 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, or it could have like 5 terms. I'm not going to write them out, but 5 terms. So polynomial just means you got a bunch of stuff going on. Alright? Well, remember we're distributing and combining like terms. Distributing, you multiply. So I'm going to go over the rules again of how we do exponents. So remember, when you multiply, you add your exponents. So please remember that when we multiply, which is when we distribute, we're going to add the exponents. So when we're distributing and multiplying, we're going to add our exponents. And remember that when you're adding or subtracting, you do nothing to the exponents. So when you add or subtract, you do nothing to the exponent. Okay? So we don't add, we just leave them alone. Okay? So we're only going to be dealing with these 2 rules right now. So let me give you an example of what we already know. This is a simple distribution problem. So we draw our lines, we distribute, and we multiply the big numbers, right? So 2 times 3 is 6, and the x comes down, and 2 times 1 is 2. So we've done this several times before. So the only difference between that and what we're doing now is now we're going to have a couple x's going on, or multiple variables. Remember, the variables are just the letters. So what if I have more than one x, or more than one y, or w, whatever it is? Well, same thing. Side by side means multiplied, right? So I still want you to draw these distribution lines. Okay? You still multiply the big numbers like normal. 2 times 3 is 6. However, remember, when you multiply, you add your exponents. Well, if there are no exponents, the exponents are 1, right? So I bring down my x, and then what is 1 plus 1? Well, that's 2. So this is 6x squared, because 1 plus 1 is 2. Then 2 plus 1 is 2. And then I have 1x here, and I have no x's here. So 1 plus nothing is 1. I just have 1x. Okay? So that's the difference of what we're doing now. It's the same principle of distribution that you know, and we're just adding the exponent rules with it to make sure that we add them together. Okay? So let's practice a couple examples of that. I want you to write this problem down, please. it's hard to see, that says 2x squared, parentheses, 3x to the third power, plus 2x squared plus 3x. Okay? So we have a big problem here. If you want to get technical, this is a trinomial, and that's a monomial. We're going to distribute. So the first thing, go ahead and draw your lines. We've been doing this since a couple weeks into school. Distribution. So we draw those lines there. We multiply the big numbers. So what is 2 times 3? Well, that's 6. I have x's, so I bring my x down. And remember, when you multiply, you add your exponents. So 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay? 2 times 2 is 4, or positive 4. X comes down. We add our exponents. 2 plus 2 is 4. And last one, 2 times 3 is 6. Bring our x down. 2 plus, there is no exponent, so it's a 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3. And that's your answer. Okay? So the only thing different, we're still just multiplying numbers now. All we're doing is adding exponents. So let's look at another example. We're going to do a lot of examples. Now we have y's. It's the same thing. So go ahead and write that down. 3y, parentheses, that's 5y squared, plus 2y, close your parentheses. So draw your distribution lines. 3 times 5 is 15. There is no exponent, so it's a 1, and 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay? So hopefully I'm making sense here. If you're having questions already, please stop the video, raise your hand so I can explain what I'm doing. Just multiply the big numbers and add the exponents. Alright? Here's another example. I put a star by this one because this is weird. You're not going to really see this very much, but I want to show you what happens if this does happen when you're in algebra. You're going to see here that we have some x's, but we also have a y over here. I'm going to show you how to deal with that whole situation. This is still distribution, so we draw our lines. And the same things are the same properties are going to happen. So 5 times 3 is 15. X, and then we add 2 plus, then look, these are both x's, right? So 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay? 5 times 4 is a positive 20, and this is where something weird happens. How many x's are over here? Or the exponent, that's 2, plus there's no x's, right? So 2 plus nothing means there's 2 x's. But there's no y's here, and there's 1 y here, right? The exponent here is 1. So nothing plus 1 still means there's 1 y there. So you have to write them side by side. I know that's really weird. You're not really going to see that too much in your algebra classrooms, but I want you to see it here that, you know, you can multiply different letters, you just have to write them side by side. Just for example, like 2 times x is just the same thing as 2x. You write them side by side. Same thing. Side by side means multiplied. I just wanted you to see it so you don't like freak out when you get to algebra. Okay, now let's add the adding or the subtracting in it. So we already know how to distribute. Now we're going to combine everything together. So here I have two sets of distributions. Go ahead and hit pause and write down that problem. And then when you're ready, come back to it. I'm going to distribute my equation, or my monomials, I guess, first. So 2, there's no number here. If you want to put a 1 here, that's fine. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 is 2, so x squared. 2 times 1 is a positive 2. 1 plus nothing is just 1. Okay? Then we do this one. Make sure we draw distribution lines. 3 times 1 is a positive 3, so make sure you put a plus 3 here. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then 3 times 2 is a positive 6. 1 plus nothing is 1. Okay? So all I've done is distributed. And then we're going to combine what's alike. And you've done this before. Remember, when you add, you do nothing with the exponents, but you can only add what's alike. So this is an x squared, and this is an x squared, but nothing else is. So I can combine these two things. 2 plus 3 is 5. And remember, when you're adding or subtracting, you do nothing with the exponent. So 5x squared. And then here's an x, and there's an x. So 2 plus 6 means you have 8 x's. And that's your final answer. So if you have anything you can combine, make sure you combine it at the very end. Alright? If what I did was confusing, stop the video. Let me come over and explain it. So go ahead and write down this example. That says 2x squared, by the way. So write it down, hit pause, write it down, and then come back to us when you're ready. I'm going to distribute first. So 6 times 3, 18. Then I have x's, right? There's no exponents, so 1 plus 1 is 2. 6 times negative 4 is a negative 24. 1 times nothing is 1. And then I don't distribute anything. There's no parentheses here, so I just write plus 2x squared. So same thing. Can I combine anything here? Well, yeah. This and this are both x squareds. So 18 plus 2 is 20x squared. And then I write minus 24x because there's no other x's to combine it with. Yet again, if I'm confusing you, press pause, let it stop. Okay? Alright, last example, guys, and this is a big one, but you really are going to honestly see this in algebra, so I'm going to kind of pan across here. I'm going to write that down first. Parentheses, 3x squared plus 4x plus 2 minus, and then parentheses, x squared minus 5x plus 6. Now, there's probably a bunch of different ways your algebra teachers are going to teach you how to do this, or, one teacher will teach you a different way than I will. But here's one way to do it. If this is confusing to you, let me know. There's no numbers in front to distribute with, correct? Well, if there is no number, the number is 1. So I'm going to put some 1s here. And this isn't necessarily the fastest way to get this done, but I think it will make you understand more of what we're doing. Then go ahead and distribute those numbers. Okay, so I'm sorry, you can't see. I'm going to go ahead and distribute that 1 to everything. And you'll see that everything stays the same. So 1 times 3 is 3. There's no x's here, so it's always just going to stay the same. So that's x squared. 1 times 4 is 4x. And 1 times 2 is just 2. So basically, when you put a positive 1, everything just stays the same. So if you want to skip that step, you can, but I'm just showing you why it works. But if you have a negative 1, you're going to see that a lot of things change. So we're going to distribute that negative 1. Okay, now you might need your calculator to do this. I'm just going to do it for you real quick. There's no number here, so the number's 1 if you want to write it. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1x squared. Negative 1 times negative 5 is a positive 5, and the x comes down. And negative 1 times a positive 6 is a negative 6. So we have, this is a polynomial. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but we're going to combine what's alike. Math people, we tend to combine the highest exponent first. So this is 3x squared minus 1x squared. So 3 minus 1 is 2x squared. This is 4x, and this is a positive 5x. So 4x plus 5x is a positive 9x. And then last but not least, we have a positive 2 and a minus 6. So I know some of y'all don't really feel comfortable with negative numbers, but if you use your calculator, 2 minus 6, you'll end up with a negative 4. And that's your answer. So the whole purpose of combining this stuff is you have a really long problem here. And then basically we do all this work, and to combine it down, we shorten it to this trinomial. Much shorter. Okay? So nothing we're doing is really new. We're just combining what we already know how to do and then adding these exponent rules with it. So please let me know if you have any questions. If you feel good, let me check your notes. I'll unlock your internet and then go to the assignment.